This podcast is part of the Listen Frederick Podcast Network. To learn more, visit listenfrederick.com.
The Fedora Files.
Hello and welcome to the Fedora Files. I am Gregory Fedora. So glad you are here. This episode is brought to you by Happy Little Monsters Volume 1 through 4, as well as Sasquatch and Me. These are all the books that I've written, and you can find them on Amazon. If you buy them, they're between paperback, they're $15 to $16. They're a little bit more if you get the hardcover, but they help keep me funded. I don't really ask for a Patreon, and I don't ask for handouts or whatever, but you know, I'm going to still do this, but it kind of helps offset the cost of doing the podcast as well as doing the different videos I do on YouTube as well as on Instagram and TikTok. It kind of offsets the cost of doing all that because I have to, buy lights and mics and all that kind of good stuff. And this keeps that going as well as the money goes back into me writing more books and doing artwork. And so it really helps keep things going. And if you buy one of the books, leave a review, take a screenshot, send it to me. You will be put into a drawing to figure out if you win a signed hardback copy of any of the books I've written, and you can choose which one you want, and I will send it to you. Anyway, so this podcast, I have to thank Sarah from the American Snallygaster Museum, because I was going through Instagram, came across one of her posts. She always posts some very interesting things, and she posted something that came from another Instagram whatever place called Uncharted Lancaster, and it had to do with a witch. But it was interesting because this witch lived in the same time as the Wizard of South Mountain, which I've done a podcast about. His name was Michael Zittle, and he lived on South Mountain in Zittletown, which is between Middletown and Boonesboro. It's right on the mountain. And he was he was the Wizard of South Mountain, and he did hexes, and he did magic and powwow and powwowing. And he had a magic book written in German, and he translated it to English and all this stuff. But he was this eccentric man who lived on the mountain, and some people thought he was a great dude. Madeline Dahlgren, who wrote the book South Mountain Magic, was not a fan of his because she thought he was dealing in the dark arts. Well, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is not too far from where I am, it's a couple hours little jaunt over there, and I've been there. I actually did a live feed from Lancaster looking for the Crybaby Bridge, which I found, but we didn't hear any babies crying, but I was there. So in Lancaster, they had a witch who was like a compatriot to Michael Zittle. And interestingly, she had her own magic book that was also written in German. She was a lady who goes by the name of Barbara Fisher, also known as Hexa Frau. I guess that's German, which actually means witch woman, which, right away you get where people thought of her. Now, when she died on November 11th, 1888, and the newspaper up there in Lancaster, the Morning Call, had her obituary, and it's a long one. I looked it up. It is one of the biggest, longest obituaries I've ever seen for a woman, and it goes into who she was and her history and all kinds of craziness. It's like I'd say like a half a page obituary that they printed for this lady, which I found very interesting. I read it. Now, what's interesting is for Michael Zittle, he was kind of almost a folkish hero to some. He died in 1877, and Mrs. Fisher died in 1888. So about 11 years later, she was 90 some years old. He was 70 something. But a man went to interview her just a few weeks before she died, and he was like talked about how like she was just vivacious and seemed very much alive. And then suddenly she died, and she had this book she called the Wonder Book. And again, it was written in German, and she did these hexes. Now, what's interesting is in the obituary for this lady, uh, she was not they were not too sad to see her pass. Uh, they basically were everyone in the town seemed to be happy, even though she seemed to do some good stuff. Uh, she was different from Michael Zittle, who Michael Zittle felt you shouldn't use your magic to profit. She was very much about magic for hire. Um, the So she was very different and was all about the money. Now, what I found interesting is the journalist described her, and this is really interesting. I wanted to read this description because it's funny to me, actually. He said she was active and appeared physically robust, though her posture was stooped and her face deeply wrinkled. Her hair was pure white, and a thick growth of long white hairs were on her chin, almost as if a beard. Her eyes were as sharp and piercing as a hawk's. Her appearance alone made her a striking figure fitting the traditional image of a witch. So, stereotypical old lady, wrinkled, hairy face, she was a witch. I don't know if they tried to build a bridge out of her, but a witch nonetheless. Now, the wonder book she had came from one of her female ancestors when that lady came to Lancaster County in 1719. She was a German immigrant, and her ancestor was considered a witch woman as well. So she comes from a long line of witches, apparently, or what they considered witches. Um, Now, some of the things she was known for doing was people's livestock were being stolen, especially their horses. And she would have the farmer go and they had to go into the stalls and find I think it was four hairs from the tail. They twist them up, and then they would light both ends on the fire, and however the thing moved, and it pointed in the direction of where the person went. Once the fire went out on it, they're supposed to dig a hole and put the burnt hair in the stall, in the hole in the stall, and then that sort of prevented the horse thief from going any further. And it was said that she helped capture these. And what is interesting, that most of the stories go that the cops or the constable found the horse thieves and brought the horse back, but she was credited with capturing because she did this little spell. And she had a great out. If it didn't work, it was because the farmer grabbed the wrong hairs, and it wasn't the horse's hairs. So, so that was her out, so she could get out of that. She did a lot of, and she openly admitted, and this is another thing that makes her different from Michael Zittle. She openly admitted doing dark magic. She flat out was yes. And what's another funny thing is she actually was on trial at one point, and what happened was a farmer initiated a legal action uh, because he said Hexa Frau uh, put a put a spell on his dog, and she was asking for money to remove the spell, and the farmer refused to pay it, and the dog just ran in circles till it got exhausted and died. And in this trial, there was all these witnesses who came forward and told about the harmful witchcraft that Frau Hexa had done. And he the one farmer said that she had put a hex on his cows so that all the milk always had blood tainted in them, so he couldn't sell it. And then his healthy baby got sick, and but it got better, just kind of like in Monty Python, the guy who got turned into a new. He got better, well, the baby got better, but at one point was sick, and they blamed Frau Hexa. Now, what's great is in the they asked Barbara Fisher, "Are these things true?" And I think she was all about she liked people fearing her. She said yes. She admitted she was guilty of all the charges, and the judge, he ruled in favor of the farmer and made Frau Hexa pay $3 because that was the cost of the dog in the lawsuit was $3. What a day back in the day that you could have a lawsuit and it was only $3 to recover that. But I in my mind, in my happy little mind, I like to think that maybe Frau Hexa and Michael Zittle somehow cross paths because they have very similar things in that they both had this magic book. And now the thing that is interesting is again, both these books are gone. Where they went is anybody's guess. Nobody knows. Nobody knows where the Wonder Book went, and nobody knows where Michael Zittle's book went. So as if these things vanished once the Wizard and Witch passed. They're just gone. I mean, the one thing we do know about Michael Zittle is that he did transcribe it into English, and there is one copy available left over in Boonesboro in a museum that it's behind some glass. But what happened to the Wonder Book? It was supposedly 300 years old, 300-year-old book that was passed down through this Barbara Fisher's family. But again, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think she really was a witch? Do you think she had powers? Do you think she could conjure and hex? Was she working in the dark arts? Or do you think she's just an eccentric old lady who just did things and liked the attention? Because like I said, the horse seats. I mean, come on. I could go and say, hey, your horse is gone. Okay, give me some hairs, burn it. Okay. And if it comes back, hey, it's because of me. If it doesn't come back, it's on you. So, and that was her logic. And the people believed her and they were scared of her. But like the obituary, even says that like basically this was the headline, has C hot hexa kina. I don't even know what that means. I might have just did a spell. I hope I didn't just curse you. But it says a Pennsylvania German witch who died in Lancaster recently. They did not mourn her at all, and they assumed she is now forever in hell, and her soul was already doomed to that forbidden place. And that was in her obituary. They thought that she's gone, she's dead, she's evil, and I think she thrived on people thinking she was that way. And she was never married, spinster back then. So of course, spinster lady, old lady living in the woods. Of course, she's a witch. But what are your thoughts? Do you think she was a witch or not, or do you fall on the side of she's just a old lady who wanted attention and liked it? And do you think that perhaps she and Michael Zittle knew of each other because they lived about the same time? They died 11 years apart. And it could have been a love match if only they lived closer. Gosh, someone should write the love story of Michael Zittle and Barbara Fisher. That would be an amazing Halloween Hallmark movie. I'm always saying how I want Hallmark to do some Halloween love stories, but they have yet to do it. They're just stuck on Valentine's Day and Christmas. There's other holidays. guess they do Thanksgiving, but not as much. But so there you go. That is the story of Barbara Fisher. Go check her out, read some more about her. Go check Uncharted Lancaster on Instagram, and they have a website. Go check their website out, and there's a lot of cool information and stories from Lancaster that I did not know about, and I'm just really enjoying, and I'm diving deeper into the folklore there. So remember, as always, to stay safe and keep searching.
The Fedora Files.
Check out fedoracrt.com today.